Are Wang Churan and Zhang Linghe more than just co-stars, the on-screen spark that's setting off real-life rumors? In the glittering, camera-flashed world of Chinese entertainment, on-screen chemistry is expected, but the chemistry between Wang Churan and Zhang Linghe is on a different level. Fans are whispering. Paparazzi are lurking. And every new photo of them together seems to add fuel to the fire. Are they just co-stars, or something far more personal? The answer might be hiding in the moments they thought no one was watching. A stormy night on set. It was the third week of filming for their historical drama, set against the backdrop of the Tang dynasty. The shoot had run late into the night, with the rain machines pouring down icy sheets of water for a pivotal emotional scene. In the script, Churan's character collapses in the courtyard, drenched and sobbing, as Linghe's warrior prince rushes forward to shield her from the downpour. But what the cameras didn't capture, what only a handful of crew members witnessed, was the moment after the director yelled "cut." The rain stopped, but Linghe didn't let go. He kept one arm around her shoulders, his other hand brushing away the wet strands of hair clinging to her face. "You're freezing," he murmured, barely audible over the clatter of crew packing equipment. Churan, shivering, leaned into him without hesitation. "Let me get you a blanket," he said, his voice low, almost intimate. The crew members exchanged glances. This wasn't in the script. The coffee shop incident. Weeks later, the two were spotted at a small cafe tucked away in Beijing's Hutongs, the kind of place where low lighting and antique wood interiors made it feel like time had stopped. It was a rainy Sunday, the city's streets glistening, and most people had stayed indoors. But a sharp-eyed fan sitting by the window recognized them instantly. Zhang Linghe was already at the corner table, wearing a dark cap pulled low. Wang Churan arrived minutes later, hood up, her face hidden behind a medical mask. She slid into the seat opposite him, but within moments, the space between them seemed to disappear. The fan swears she saw Churan laugh, really laugh, the kind that makes your eyes crinkle, at something Linghe said. He reached across the table, his hand covering hers briefly, and though it lasted only seconds, the intimacy of the gesture sent the fan's phone into overdrive. When the photo surfaced online, hashtags exploded. #Wang Churan Zhang Linghe dating and #not just co-stars shot up to the top of Weibo's trending list. Their studios issued no comment. The award show whisper. If fans thought the cafe sighting was a coincidence, the next event only deepened the mystery. At the annual Golden Lotus Awards, they arrived separately, Churan in an off-shoulder champagne gown that shimmered like moonlight, Linghe in a tailored black suit that looked like it was made for him and him alone. Seated several rows apart, they had no official reason to interact in front of cameras. But during a commercial break, a behind-the-scenes camera caught something intriguing, Linghe leaning down to whisper something in Churan's ear as she passed by his seat. Her reaction was instant, a soft smile, followed by a light tap on his arm, and then she moved on. The whisper itself was inaudible, but the body language spoke volumes. Fans dissected the clip frame by frame. Was that a blush on her cheeks? Did his eyes linger just a second too long? The late-night studio walk. Every drama shoot has its grueling days, but one particular night stood out to crew members. The call time had stretched past midnight, and most of the extras had gone home. The set was quiet, except for the sound of distant city traffic and the hum of stage lights. Linghe had finished his last scene and could have left hours earlier. Instead, he stayed. When Churan finally wrapped, exhausted and still in costume, she found him waiting at the edge of the lot. Without a word, he fell into step beside her, matching his pace to hers. They walked the length of the studio road, talking in low tones, their hands brushing occasionally in the dark. "Do you always wait for your co-stars like this?" she teased. "Only when I want to," he replied with a faint smile. The birthday surprise. If there was one moment that broke the internet, it was Wang Churan's birthday celebration. Her official birthday party was a glitzy affair, attended by co-stars, friends, and media. But it was a private gathering after that had fans convinced. In a dimly lit rooftop garden, Churan was presented with a small cake, not the extravagant multi-tiered one from earlier, but a simple one topped with her favorite fruit. Zhang Linghe was the one holding it. A fan video showed him lighting the single candle, shielding it from the wind with his palm as she made a wish. Their eyes met, and for a few long seconds, it felt like the rest of the world didn't exist. Art imitating life. Their drama storyline was already the talk of the town, a sweeping romance between a guarded princess and a loyal general who defies fate to be with her. But the emotional depth in their performances had critics raving. "You can't fake that kind of connection," one entertainment columnist wrote. "It's either Oscar-level acting, or it's real." Scenes between them often lingered longer than scripted, with micro-expressions that hinted at something unsaid. In one climactic moment, Linghe's character holds Churan's face, his thumb brushing her cheek. The director later revealed, that wasn't in the script, Zhang Linghe did that on his own. We kept it because it felt so natural. The silent pact. Insiders claim that during filming, they developed a quiet understanding. Between takes, they didn't need to speak much, a glance, a half-smile, or a subtle gesture was enough. When one was tired, the other seemed to instinctively notice. One assistant recalled, she had a migraine one day, and before anyone else noticed, he brought her water, adjusted the lighting near her chair, and made sure she could rest. It wasn't loud or showy, just caring. When the cameras stopped. What happened after the wrap party remains a mystery. Officially, they went their separate ways, each diving into new projects. But fans began spotting subtle clues, matching bracelets in different interviews, similar Instagram backgrounds suggesting they were in the same place, even captions that seemed to reference inside jokes. And yet, neither has confirmed nor denied the rumors. Why the mystery works. In an era where celebrity couples often rush to confirm or deny relationships, Wang Churan and Zhang Linghe's silence is unusual and powerful. It fuels the speculation, keeps the intrigue alive, and leaves fans dissecting every frame of their appearances together. One entertainment blogger put it best, whether they're dating or not, they've mastered the art of keeping us guessing. And that might be the most romantic thing of all. The final scene we can't forget. Perhaps the most telling moment came not from paparazzi photos or fan videos, but from an unedited behind-the-scenes reel accidentally posted by a crew member. In the clip, they're rehearsing a farewell scene in which Churan's character must walk away, leaving Linghe's warrior standing alone. She does the take once, twice, but on the third try, she falters halfway, breaking character. Instead of resetting, Linghe steps forward, takes her hand, and holds it for a long beat. There's no dialogue. The Tang Dynasty Palace courtyard was silent, save for the heavy patter of rain hitting cobblestones. Artificial rain machines hung over the set like looming clouds, pouring down icy sheets of water that sparkled under the towering film lights. Wang Churan stood in the center of the courtyard, hair plastered to her face, her white silk costume clinging to her form. Her hands trembled, partly from the cold, partly from the weight of the scene ahead. Across from her, Zhang Linghe adjusted his long warrior's robe, the crimson fabric already soaking up the water like ink. The director's voice sliced through the storm. Positions. Cameras rolling in 5, 4, 3, 2, action. The scene. Churan's character, Princess Lian, had just learned of her kingdom's betrayal. She staggered forward, eyes wide with grief, before falling to her knees in the rain. Her sobs echoed against the courtyard walls. From the far end, Linghe's General Rong emerged through the sheets of water, his boots splashing as he ran toward her. "Your Highness!" he shouted, his voice cutting through the artificial thunder. He dropped to one knee, the rain streaming down his face. Without hesitation, he pulled her into his arms, shielding her from the downpour with his own body. The camera framed them tightly, the general's fierce protectiveness, the princess's trembling hands gripping the front of his robe, the shared breath between them. The director let the moment stretch. 30 seconds. 40. The world seemed to hold its breath. Cut. The rain machine slowed to a drizzle, then stopped. Crew members rushed in with towels, but what they saw made them pause. After the cut, Zhang Linghe still had one arm wrapped around Wang Churan's shoulders. She was shivering, her lips pale from the cold. He didn't release her, even as the assistant director stepped forward with a blanket. "You're freezing," he murmured, his voice low and warm, the kind of tone you use for someone you've known far longer than a co-worker. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she tilted her head just slightly, her temple resting against his jaw as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The crew exchanged quick glances. This wasn't part of the performance anymore. The blanket moment. When Linghe finally took the blanket from the AD, he didn't simply drape it over her shoulders. He wrapped it around both of them, pulling her close so they shared the warmth. The edges of the wool clung to the outline of their bodies, their silhouettes framed in the faint mist of cooling rain. "You didn't have to wait in the rain," she said softly. "I wasn't going to leave you out here alone," he replied, his eyes steady on hers. A quiet corner. They moved away from the busy crew, settling under one of the courtyard's stone archways. The storm still rumbled in the distance, and droplets slid down the carved pillars beside them. Linghe crouched down, inspecting her hands. "You can't even feel your fingers, can you?" he asked. She shook her head, smiling faintly. Without a word, he took her hands in his, rubbing them slowly to bring back the warmth. For a moment, there was no set, no cameras, no director, just two people, sitting close enough to hear each other breathe. The crew's suspicion. Behind the lighting rigs, two makeup artists watched with raised eyebrows. "They're close," one whispered. "Too close for just scene partners," the other murmured. Back to work. When the director called for another take, they returned to their marks, but something had shifted. The connection between them was no longer just good acting, it carried an unspoken intimacy that was impossible to ignore. This time, when Linghe pulled her into his arms, it felt less like a scripted embrace and more like instinct, as if he needed to shield her from more than just fictional rain. The real storm. Halfway through the second take, something unexpected happened. The skies above the set, heavy with real clouds all night, finally broke open. Real rain began to fall, blending seamlessly with the artificial downpour. The temperature dropped sharply. The director shouted over the noise, "Keep rolling. This is perfect." Perfect for the scene, maybe, but brutal for the actors. Churan's breath turned visible in the cold, her shivers more pronounced. Linghe noticed immediately. Between lines, he leaned in so only she could hear, "We'll get through this, just hold on." When she nodded, he tightened his hold, tucking her slightly closer under his arm. The cameras captured it all, the protective angle of his shoulders, the way his jaw clenched in quiet determination. The unscripted touch. At the end of the take, when his character was supposed to release her, Linghe didn't. Not right away. His hand moved from her shoulder to her cheek, brushing away the wet strands of hair that had stuck there. His thumb lingered for just a second too long. It wasn't in the script. It wasn't necessary for the shot. But it was real. Wrap for the night. When cut echoed through the courtyard for the final time, the crew began to dismantle the rain rigs. The actors were free to go, but instead of heading to the dressing rooms, Churan sat on the edge of the stone fountain, pulling the blanket tighter around herself. Linghe returned from the wardrobe tent, now in his own clothes, dark jeans, a simple sweater. In his hands was a steaming paper cup. "Ginger tea," he said, offering it to her. "Helps with the cold." She accepted it, her fingers brushing his as she took the cup. "You really didn't have to." "I wanted to," he replied simply. Walking out together. Most of the crew had left by the time they walked toward the parking area. The night air was crisp, the smell of wet stone and distant blossoms drifting around them. They didn't speak much, just walked side by side, occasionally glancing at each other with small smiles. As they reached her car, she paused, her hand on the door. "Thanks, for tonight." He met her gaze, his expression unreadable for a moment before softening. "Get some rest, Churan." The crew's memory. For weeks after, the crew kept talking about that night. Not just about the unexpected real rain or the flawless shots, but about what happened between takes. The way he stayed close, the way she leaned in without hesitation, the way they seemed to forget there were a dozen pairs of eyes on them. It wasn't the kind of thing you could stage. It wasn't rehearsed. Fan speculation begins. Somewhere in the chaos, a crew member had snapped a blurry photo, the two of them under the blanket in the archway, his head tilted toward hers. The photo never hit the press, but it began circulating quietly in private fan chats, whispered about like a secret too fragile to expose. By the time the drama aired months later, the rain scene became a fan favorite. "You can feel it," one commenter wrote. "That's not acting. That's something else." It was one of those quiet, moody Beijing afternoons where the sky sat heavy and grey, and rain traced slow, winding rivers down the window panes. The kind of day that made the city feel smaller, more intimate, like it was holding its breath. Wang Churan had spent most of the morning indoors, scrolling through her phone in the corner of her apartment, pretending she didn't notice the world outside was begging for a hot drink and a stolen hour away from obligations. She almost didn't go. But the message on her phone, just 4 words from Zhang Linghe, had tipped the balance. Same place. 3 p.m. The hidden cafe. The cafe wasn't famous. It was buried deep in one of Beijing's narrow hutongs, hidden between a vintage bookstore and a tailor's shop that had been there for decades. Inside, warm golden lamps cast pools of light over worn wooden tables, and the air smelled faintly of roasted coffee beans and cinnamon. Zhang Linghe was already there when she arrived. He sat in the farthest corner, half hidden by a towering bookshelf, wearing a dark cap pulled low over his brow. The steam from the cup in front of him curled up into the lamplight. When she slipped inside, shaking the raindrops from her hood, his eyes found her instantly. A subtle, almost imperceptible shift in his expression, something between relief and anticipation, told her he'd been waiting. The first glance. She sat across from him, her medical mask still on, her fingers wrapping around the warm ceramic mug the barista set down. For a few moments, they didn't speak. The silence wasn't awkward, it was charged. The hum of the espresso machine, the faint jazz playing through hidden speakers, the occasional clink of cups from other tables, all of it faded to the edges. Finally, she pulled down her mask and smiled faintly. "You're early." "I didn't want to miss you," he replied, his voice low, meant only